Greetings my fellow crafters and creatives. This is actually Editing Bobby here, just welcoming you back to part 2 of my episode 54. So just in case you didn't watch the previous episode for some reason, it was 2 hours long and I decided that I needed to split it somewhere. So this is a continuation of that, but if you do need a little bit of an introduction, my name is Bobby Olan and I'm primarily a knitter and I am based in Victoria, Australia. My pronouns are she and hers, and any links to and anything that I discuss will have links in the YouTube description down in the video below. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoy. That away. And the second project, I'm so excited about this actually. I was itching to cast on the Early Morning by Yuko Shimizu, but I've kind of made it a rule for myself lately. Oh no. Just leave that there. Don't touch that. I've kind of made it a rule for myself lately that I only want to be working on one jumper at a time. And partly that is because with the timing tracking app that I like to use on my phone, I've sort of simplified how I'm using it. Instead of making new tasks and tags for every single project. So previously I would have had like a task on the list that was VBACT and then made a new task on the list that's Early Morning Jumper. But now I just have one task that is jumper. And so while I have one jumper going, I don't want to have, basically I don't want to have two jumpers going because then my timings will get all confused in that. Anyway, I sort of pushed myself to finish working on this VBACT while I was sick because I was really keen to get started on the Early Morning. And when as soon as I blocked this, well, no, the day after I blocked this, I got onto that Early Morning straight away and I'm having so much fun with it. I'm pretty sure I did mention this in a previous vlog, but since this is really a new cast on, I'll just say it again. The Early Morning is disappointingly only available in 3 sizes, medium, large, and extra large. And the sizes are, it ranges from a bust circumference of 100 to 126 centimeters, or 39.5 to 49.5 inches. So really not a lot of range there. I really like it. It sucks. It really sucks that it's not available in more sizes. Like if you want to make it and you want something smaller or larger, I don't know that it's one that you could easily, because for like a more, well, actually this isn't a traditional construction. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I don't know how easy it would be to sort of just like, I think I'm thinking of like other cable sweaters that I've knit in the past, how like the side panel is all like stockinette or reverse stockinette or seed stitch or something like that, and it's possibly easy to just add extra stitches there, but then I don't know what you do with the sleeve. Anyway, it really sucks that it's not a size inclusive pattern, and I feel really bad knitting it when it's not, but I really like it. And I'm trying to use up all that I have left of the Bendigo Woolen Mills Classic, and I think it will just be really fun in this jumper. Now that I have finally finished the VBACT, I have made a start on the Early Morning. This is all that I have so far, just a little bit of the cuff and just a couple of things that I wanted to share with you at this starting point. I'm using one of my abacus row counters here, and usually when I work with these, because it only counts 1 to 10, when I get to 10 I usually put a removable stitch marker into the knitting, and then I'd count how many there are. But this time I'm trying something different, and I'm putting the removable stitch marker on the number. So for example, I've knit 20 rows, so I've got the removable stitch marker on the number 2. So see how that works out, just less things attached that could possibly get caught in this dangliness. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is I've got that all nicely set up in my knitting journal, and because the way that this pattern is done, it's got the cables, the charts for the cables across a couple of different pages on the PDF, which is a bit annoying, you know, to have to go back and forth and check and stuff. I've actually used my thermal printer that I bought off AliExpress to print out. I took like screenshots on my phone of just the cable, like the zoomed into the cables, and I've printed them out. It hasn't done like the best, clearest job of it. Like you can't see the grid lines because it's such a small like size to print that it just didn't pick up on it, but it's going to be enough for me to follow. So we'll see how that goes. Oh, and also the pattern itself does start with knitting the hem. It's a bottom-up construction, but I'm starting with the sleeve because I have such odd quantities of all of the yarns, and this green one here is the one that I have the least of. So I sort of wanted to get started with where I am using that and see how far that gets me, and that should sort of help me figure out where and how I'll use all of the other colors. Okay, this is a mess, but let me try to show you what's going on. I have knit the first sleeve cuff, and pretty much what the pattern had called for in terms of rows. And interestingly, it does say how many rounds to knit instead of a length to knit to. So I did that, and that pretty much used up all that I had left of this green colorway in the Bendigo Woolen Mills Classic was this ball and this ball here, and I'm very happy that what the pattern had asked me to do pretty much used up the whole of one of those balls. As you can see, it didn't actually get me to the end of the round, but since I'm kind of making this a little bit higgledy-piggledy anyway, I'm just going to make that my new beginning of round when I work the rest of the sleeve, because a quarter of a round isn't really going to do much for me. So I had weighed all of these balls before I started, and then I weighed what I had left, and I did a bunch of calculations, and I figured out for all of the other colorways that I have, I already know where I want to place them, but I figured out, okay, I do actually have enough to knit each section that I want it for and a little bit extra, and I've sort of started planning out how those extra little bits of color will play with the body, will go into the body, which is going to be knit in this raffia color. Sorry for the noise, but you can see here some more like leftover itty bitties. And now that I've sort of calculated, so when I did my calculations, I kind of figured out how many stitches this was and how much yarn in terms of grams it took, and based on those calculations, all very rough, I figured out that I can knit 91.2 stitches per gram or something like that. So I'm just saying 91 for my calculations. So now that I know that I have enough of this ensign colorway to knit the hem, which is what I wanted it for because it is the darkest color. So I want that down around my hips. And when I finish the hem, I should still have 14 grams left over. So I am planning to split that and work that into the sleeves somehow. So how I am putting this together is totally all over the place. So one sleeve cuff done, that is now on hold, and I have cast on for the body. And just fingers crossed that this all comes together and works. I can't remember if I had mentioned this already, but there are a lot of notes on the projects on Ravelry for this pattern, that there are a lot of errors in it, stitch counts don't add up, and it can be, you have to pay attention and just be really mindful because there are errors in it, or it's just written in a way that isn't the most clear to understand. And I am finding that is true. It is interesting though, because the designer, I believe, is Japanese, and there is a Japanese version of the pattern and an English version of the pattern. And I've never done a Japanese pattern before, and I'm wondering if it's just a cultural thing that they just write up their patterns differently. So one interesting thing that I've come across is, for example, in one of the rounds, it's got an abbreviation. It's saying SS and then a number of stitches. And I would have defaulted to thinking, oh, SS, is that stockinette stitch? But when I looked at the glossary, it was seed stitch. And it is interesting that it, there isn't a setup in the round before that says knit 1, purl 1, or knit 2, purl 2, however, they define seed stitch. So I'm guessing it's a 1x1 seed stitch, but you just kind of have to decide how you're going to do that. I mean, it's seed stitch. It's not complicated at all, but it just says to do it for this many number of stitches. So you just decide for yourself, are you going to start with a knit? Are you going to start with a purl? Are you going to do 1x1? Are you going to do 2x2? So that's just one interesting thing that I have found. So far, my only modification to the pattern so far has been that I am using the larger size needles for the hem instead of the smaller size that I used for the cuff of the sleeve. And that's purely because I don't necessarily want the hem to pull in. I don't want it to cinch in as dramatically as it would if I had gone down a needle size. What have I done? I have knit the hem, and I'm actually 6 rounds short of how long the pattern has told me to use it. But I have finished the first chunk of this blue yarn. And as with the cuff, I've decided I'm just going to end it here. What's this doing? I'm just going to end it here. And the second ball that I have of it, I just kind of can't be bothered joining that and knitting those extra rounds. And I think that is like a thick enough hem anyway. And I will just incorporate this into the sleeves somewhere or elsewhere if I decide that works better. But I'm finding this way of knitting really enjoyable. I mean, I'm really excited about this project to begin with because I think it's such a fun, cozy looking sweater. But the way that I'm doing this project and trying to use up like all that I have left of this Bendigo Wool & Mills classic yarn, and the way that I'm like putting the colors together. I'm just finding it really fun and really exciting. So on this hem, I did a similar thing that I did with the cuff. Is this my beginning of round was here. So obviously when I got to this point and finished the latest full round that I finished, I knew that I wouldn't have enough to finish another round. It only got me this far. But I also just didn't want to have, like, you know, however much, like this much yarn left over. So I just knit again. I just kept going until I ran out of yarn, and I'm just going to make that my new beginning of round, because why not? I'm just finding this really fun. And I've also I'm trying something here that I've never done before either, and that is that when I was close to finishing the yarn, I doubled. Let me see if I can find an end in this mess to illustrate. Let me just get another bit of yarn, shall I? Okay. So when I was close to the end, I doubled the yarn back on itself, and I knit it together with 2 strands for the last couple of stitches. And then, so all that I have left at the end is this like itty bitty loop thing, which is what I have my removable stitch marker through at the moment. It's just hooked into that loop. And then when I start working the body in the raffia color, I'm just going to take the end. This obviously isn't the raffia color, but I'm just going to take the end, put it through that little itty bitty loop that I have. I'm not doing it now because I'm going to need a darning needle to get it through that loop, but I've just threaded it through the stitch marker for demonstration purposes. So I'm just going to do that, and for the first few stitches of that new colorway, I'm just going to knit it doubled, and in that way the yarns are neatly joined and the ends are woven in all at once. So hope that works out. And my plan now is actually to go back to the sleeve. So what I might actually do I want to knit the second cuff and then knit both sleeves together? I might do that. No, I'm not going to do that. I did think about this yesterday and I forgot. What I want to do is I want to continue knitting one sleeve, and the pattern has the sleeve, like, it's long, it's oversized, because the whole thing about this sweater is it's meant to be like big and oversized, and it's meant to like hang on you and be really loose. So they have the sleeves coming down that far as well, which I think looks really good and it suits the look of the sweater. But because I'm knitting a smaller size because I don't have enough yarn, so it's not going to be oversized. And just knowing how I like to wear my sweaters as well, I want it to come to about there instead of there. So I want to work one sleeve first so that I can so I can try the sleeve on more easily and just work it until it's at a length that I like, which requires a bit of guessing about. Actually, no, I can look at the schematic and see how much longer the sleeve is once it is joined to the body. Anyway, I'll figure all that out, but basically I want to knit just one sleeve first so that I can check the fit of it and knit it to the size that I want it to be. Yeah, it's fun. I am second guessing my life choices in regards to this. This is what I have started of the sleeve so far. Not much. You can see that I have started putting in the blue. And what I had envisioned, this isn't the same cable pattern, but what I had envisioned was that the blue would be like one chunk of this cable that winds in and out. But I think, I'm not sure. I don't think that that's going to work. Or also, I don't think it's going to eat up as much of the yarn as I would like it to. So I need to rethink that. But also, I just didn't think this through going into it. So technically what I'm doing is like intarsia, but because I was lazy about making it proper intarsia, and I was like, oh, it's just such a short bit of the other color, I'll just carry the main color yarn behind it. But then of course, if this is being worked in the round as the pattern calls for, then the yarn is always going to be on the wrong side. And I have done intarsia in the round before, but for something that was just all stockinette stitch, and it was fine. I got the hang of it really well. But because I had carried the yarn over, basically I couldn't work in the round because the contrast color strand that I'm working from will be on the wrong side, and I shouldn't be carrying that. I shouldn't be stringing that over every single round. So I added one extra stitch at the beginning and at the end of the round and started working it flat. But I think if I'm going to do that, I should have started doing that from the beginning. But also, even though I had done it intentionally, I don't love that the blue is like it hasn't started from the beginning. So I think I'm going to rip this out and I'm going to do it again. And I need to think about what I want to do, how I want to incorporate the blue yarn, because I think I need it to be more than the 4 stitches of this cable. And do I want to work this sleeve flat? Because if I do, then I kind of want to start that from the beginning. And if I don't, then I need to look up how to work intarsia in the round again. Yes, I'll have a think about that. I've decided that I would do intarsia in the round, and I didn't look it up again because I thought about it a little bit and I kind of remember how to do it. But I am going to need to restart this again, because the way that you do intarsia round, it does involve some knitting back and forth. You're not actually completely just working in the same direction in the round. And I have just gotten to the point where I need to start going in the other direction for the first time. And I realize that this is going to be really confusing for me the way that I've done it. So for this section here, I have already knit 2 rounds and I'm about to go back and work round 3 for this portion. But on this side over here, I've only worked 1 round. So when I get to this beginning of round marker, I'll switch from working round 3 to round 2 over here. Are you confused? Because I know I will be. If I keep going this way, I will just confuse myself. So what I actually need to do is start the round at the start of this contrast color, because that's the point where I will be flipping and working in the opposite direction, if I'm remembering correctly how this works. So if I start here, then I can work one round. Just trying to sort of remind myself how this works as I go. So one full round, and then I twist the yarns around each other. I work back that way, and then, yeah, so what am I doing? So the blue, I work one round. The working yarn for the blue will be on this side as it is here. So here I have to catch that blue yarn and work back in this direction. So when I get here, it'll still be attached there and I can work with that. But now the end of, like when I get to that point, the end of, like the working end of the raffia yarn, the main color yarn, will be over here. So I work the blue and the raffia won't be there. So at that point, I turn again and I work in this direction. And then so on and so forth, something like that. If you want to know how to work intarsia in the round, just look up a video, because I sort of just need to work this through in my head as I get to each round. But I really do think that it will be a little bit easier on myself if I start the round at the color change instead of where the pattern tells me to start here, which will just require a lot of paying attention. Oh goodness. Okay, third time lucky. How many times do I have to restart these sleeves? Because I am just not thinking ahead enough. Sun's really coming in there. Let's face away from it, shall we? All right, what's my issue now? I've done one round and I was all ready to start doing this intarsia in the round business. And then I remembered that these sleeves have short rows. And I do want to do the short rows because I've never done sleeves with short rows, at least at this elbow position, wherever they're going to be is. And I'm curious about that shape. I'm interested in that shaping. And I guess it's part of the reason why this pattern is interesting to me. So I want to do them. But because I have changed my beginning of a round to somewhere in the middle of the round, and I'm doing this intarsia in the round business, it's going to be so confusing when the short rows start, because I want them to be in the right spot and not half round out or whatever it would be if I just follow the instructions. So I think I'm going to have to take this out, start it over a fourth time, and I'm just going to have to work this as intarsia knit flat sleeves. Yeah, the section of this sleeve that isn't cables is seed stitch, like I said before. So I'm kind of thinking I'm just going to do it without adding an extra stitch at the beginning and end of each round. Is that going to come back to bite me though? I don't think I've ever seamed seed stitch before. Anyway, I'll put this down for a minute, have a think about it, but I really think that knitting back and forth is going to be the best way to give me the results that I want. I'll get there. I know I can do it. I know it'll be worth it. I'll get there. Friends, you're going to call me crazy, and you would be right, because I think I'm crazy. I have started this sleeve 4 times, the main part of this sleeve 4 times, and it's working. I've got it working. It's correct, and it's working. But I actually want to start it over a 5th time because I'm crazy. Let me show you why. Here's my sleeve. I've got 2 main colors and 1 contrast color attached. I have been knitting it flat and it's working. Intarsia, knit flat, it is working. But I realized, so when I started this, I cast on an extra stitch at the start and at the end of the row, the round, the row, whatever you want to call it. Technically they're rows now, because that's what you do. You have extra stitches at the edge so that when you seam, because you usually, if you're seaming stockinette, you will lose 1 stitch on each edge. But when seaming seed stitch, or at least the way that I intend to seam seed stitch, you don't lose any stitches. And I only just remembered / realized that. Now, I could leave it because in the next section that I am about to, or should be starting, which is the short rows, there are increases. So I could leave it, but I don't want to, because I have also now decided that in this intarsia, in this contrast color section, there is 1 single column of a purl stitch running down the center of it. And I have decided that I want that to be in the main color. So at least now I know what works. But I want to do it again so that I can eliminate those extra stitches. I think that will also be good to do because I am concerned. Well, I already feel that I don't have enough yarn. And I can change the color of that center there. I'm crazy. I know it, but it's going to make me happy. And that's what it's all about, right? Hello. I am actually filming this snippet after I have filmed the whole piece to camera portion of this, because I just realized that I didn't actually show you where I got to with my sleeve adventures. So that is how it is looking there. Not much to show, really, considering all of the time that I put into this, but there is that. And you can, I'm sort of, instead of just knitting 1 stitch of this straight up, I'm sort of every now and then trying to catch the float 1 stitch out. And I don't know if that's really necessary, and I may actually stop because you can, I don't think you're going to actually be able to tell on a camera. So maybe it's okay in real life as well. But you can kind of see that the color blips are showing through. But it just felt like loose or something, like not secure. when I was just simply carrying this up. I have so much yarn attached to this. I have one main ball for this side, one main ball for this side, one contrast ball for the middle bit, and then another little bit of the main color attached to that center thing there. And I've also switched to knitting this. It's not technically in the round, but I'm kind of doing it in a traveling loop style, just because that felt easier. Anyway, it's looking interesting. It's going to be a very interesting jumper when it's done. One other thing that I forgot to mention, because I just seem to be forgetful, stop falling down, is this pattern doesn't actually tell you to mirror the cables, or there aren't two charts. There aren't like left and right charts for each of the cables, but I do like mirroring, so I am actually doing that. So this cable, for instance, right now it's leaning to the right, so on this side I've had it leaning to the left. This cable here is a little bit more complicated, and the really cool thing about having printed the charts on my little thermal printer is that I was able to just really easily flip the chart and print it again, so that I do have both sides of the chart. And charts are just so brilliant like that too. Like, you can read them backwards and forwards and it's the same. As in, it just works. It's fantastic. Anyway, that is it for my knitting works in progress. The next segment that I wanted to get into is craft for thought, where I sort of just ramble on about something crafty that I have been thinking about. And today, so I have been sick for the last couple of weeks. So since I last vlogged, I've pretty much been sick that whole time. And I can't remember if I've mentioned this previously, but for the last year or so, I have been constantly been getting these sinus pains here, and I have had like a CT scan, and I've taken allergy medicine and cold medicine, and like I just never really, I couldn't figure out what it was and why it kept coming back. It felt like every month I was getting this sinus pain and I felt like I was getting sick. I would get headaches and fogginess from it and just like sinus pain. And it hasn't been fun, as you can imagine. And recently I went to my GP and I was saying, like, what else can it be? Because it's clearly not actually my sinuses, because we've looked at everything to do with my sinuses and there's nothing there. So he thought that it's possibly, if my eyes are dry and I'm blinking more or I'm like straining more with my eyes, then that could be affecting the muscles in this area. So I've upped my eye drop usage and also switched to a different one that he recommended. But the other one, which I think is more likely, is TMJ, like jaw pain. And I know that I clench when I concentrate. I grind. I wear a guard thing when I sleep so that I don't grind my teeth in my sleep. So that I know that that's something that I've had an issue with for a really, really long time. So again, he's saying that there are muscles here that can be affected by all of these issues here. So I'm trying to focus more on fixing that. But then, of course, I got sick recently, like actually sick. And that was a bit funny too, because I'd take cold medicine, I'd start feeling better, I'd start easing off on the cold medicine, I'd start feeling like straight back fully into full-on sickness again. And I'm sure that a lot of it was actually sick, because when I have this sinus pain, I don't actually have like a runny nose or anything, but I have had a runny nose. And also usually when I get hay fever, I don't think I usually get like a really runny nose. Although actually, come to think of it, for the last couple of years, I feel like my hay fever has been moving more towards that direction, which kind of sucks. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, this has turned into more of a life notes than a craft for thoughts, but I promise I'm going to relate this back to crafts. Yeah, so I started feeling better, and it felt like the fatigue especially was dragging on for ages, and I don't get fatigue just from sinus pain. So I'm certain that I was actually sick. My partner thinks that we had COVID and we just presented very, very differently from each other. But anyway, I don't know now because I'm still quite sniffly and sneezy and stuffy in the head. And I don't know now if having been sick, what am I trying to say? I think now it's just hay fever. And I think my being sick has morphed into hay fever / I have this continuing sinus pain. I shouldn't call it sinus pain anymore because I know it's not to do with my sinuses, but I'll call it TMJ pain. And for like a while I was like, I don't know if I'm sick. I don't know if I'm still sick or if this is the TMJ thing going on or if this is the hay fever thing going on, because we have now entered into spring. And ramble. What I'm trying to say is, with all of these jaw issues, I've been trying to think a little bit about the things that make me clench my jaw. And some things, obviously, like you can't help. I clench my jaw when I'm driving because I'm concentrating. I clench my jaw when I'm working on the computer, or I don't know. I'm sure there's lots of reasons that I'm not aware of that I'm concentrating on something, so I clench my jaw. And obviously one of those things is knitting. So I've been trying to think of how I can make knitting more relaxing for myself. And I know that I put a lot of pressure on myself with my knitting. Like I really enjoy participating in knit-alongs, for example, but then I give myself too much to do, and yeah, I'm always I'm always giving myself deadlines for the projects that I do, and I have all of these goals and things that I want to accomplish. So that's putting pressure on it. And I don't know that I can stop myself behaving that way, because it's also part of the enjoyment of it for me. So I'm trying to think of how else I can relax while I'm knitting. I used to, when I had my own craft room in our previous place, I used to sometimes light a candle or have some essential oils going in a diffuser. But in the current rental that we're in, my partner and I are actually sharing this space, and he is a lot more sensitive to those scents. So I can't have those going while we're here. And before it got real, like I had been crafting in the living room, and then it started getting really cold. And because my partner always had the heater on in this back room, I moved my crafting into here. And I did find yesterday when I was knitting in the living room, I had the split system heater going. And with that on, like my sniffling and sneezing was just like next level. So I feel like I can't craft out there. And even when I do craft out there and I have the candle going, he'll come out into the open plan kitchen living area, and he'll smell whatever candle I'm burning or what have you and be bothered by it. So I don't really want to do that in like a shared space. So that's not currently an option for me. So the other thing that I have started doing is changing how I watch all of the crafty vloggers that I watch on YouTube. Oh my God. I can't, how long does it take me to get to the point? Because I have thousands of videos on my watch list on YouTube because of the way that I watch videos, being that when I watch someone, I have to watch them from the very beginning, and I've decided to start a whole bunch of people at the same time and watch the back catalogs from as far back as possible. So I have so many videos to catch up on. So I watch them at double speed because I'm very keen to get back to the present day. And I know that as the timeline goes on, more people that I have subscribed to and haven't yet started watching will start. So right now I'm watching in 2018, and I know that there will be people who don't start vlogging until 2020, 2021, whatever. So like I haven't added everything to my watch list, and when I reach a point in time where I need to add more videos, I add more videos. So my queue kind of does this, and it's been at like the 2,500-ish quantity for a really long time now. But yeah, because I have so many to get through, I've been watching my videos at 2x speed, and I'm wondering if that's influencing how I knit as well. So am I trying to knit faster? A, because I want to get lots of things done, but B, because I'm watching and listening to people at like double speed, and it makes me like subconsciously like work faster than what I would normally be working. So I've just been thinking about that, and even though I really, really want to catch up to the present day, I have slowed down my watching speed. Not to 1x, because then I just feel like I will never, ever, ever catch up. But I am watching at 1.5 speed now, and I do notice the difference. And I do think it does make it that little bit more relaxing for me. Oh my God, that was such a ramble. I did not expect that to be such a ramble. I do not know how to be concise. Thank you for being patient while I got my thoughts out. Let's get on to the next thing, which is MULTICRAFTY. So the first project that I hopefully briefly just want to share is the Scrappie, Grannie, Hexie, Blankie that I am doing for my Garter or Grannie make-along. So first of all, Garter or Grannie make-along, that is running until the end of year. So if you want to join me in that, you just need to work on a project that incorporates either Granny stitch or Garter stitch or both. So clearly it's open to crocheters and knitters, and yeah, I hope you join along. You can use the hashtag GGMakeAlong on Instagram, or you can post to my community page here on YouTube, or get in touch with me some other way. I'd love to see what you're working on. Anyway, the optic blanket is one of my own entries for that, and my second is what I am calling the Scrappie, Grannie, Hexie, Blankie. I have finished another Hexie. This one is in a Motivera, not just socks yarn, which is the same yarn that I'm using for my V-back tee. So it's another self-striping. And it occurred to me that I should test out this hand spun, which is what I was hoping to use for the crochet as you go borders around all of these, that will go around all of these hexagons and join them together, because I have heaps of this, and I don't know how much I'm going to need. But I did overspin it, and it's not great quality fibre to begin with, but I did overspin it, so it feels quite ropey and rough. So I did a little test hexagon just to see how it would feel crocheted, like if, you know, the fabric squishiness makes it feel like any softer. Unfortunately, it does still feel quite like a bit rough. I tried, you can see, holding it with a little bit of this very fine lace wool yarn in the hopes to soften it up a bit. That didn't help at all, and it actually looks kind of weird. I do also have a small cone of a grey mohair yarn that I could also hold with it, but then I'm kind of thinking that, is that just like wasteful, and is that really going to like actually mask the roughness of this? And I'm thinking I should just give up on this idea, and I do have another yarn that I could use for the borders. I don't have quite as much of the other yarn as I have of this. It's actually a 100% cotton that I thrifted from an op shop. I bought a really big long Levi's cardigan specifically for the purposes of unraveling the yarn, and I've got like 1400 meters or something of it. So I mean, hopefully that will be enough, and it's the right weight, and it's a black and white, so it could make a really interesting border. So I was wondering if maybe I should chuck this in the wash to see if it softens it up at all, and I may still do that, but I do think it's just not good stuff, and I should give up on that idea.
I've made a start crocheting Hexie number 5, and this is with another self-striping sock yarn, and I'm not really loving how lopsided it has come up so far in terms of like all of the colors bunching in one place. You can see that as it's getting bigger, the colors have started shifting around, but I'm still just not completely loving it. So I am kind of thinking I'm going to leave this as is, but I will start another one going from the center of the ball, with the hope that just because I'd be starting from like a different spot in the color sequence, that it will distribute the colors a little bit more evenly. Of course, it may not make a difference at all because the length of each color repeat is going to be the same, so it may just end up with the same result. But yeah, I just don't love how it's all the bright colors over here, and then there's like the big chunk of like the variegated grey and white on the other side-ish. I'm probably overthinking it, but I want to give that a go and see if I'm happier with it.
I was totally skeptical that that would work, and I actually nearly didn't go ahead with it, but I'm so glad that I did, because it has distributed the colors so much better. So that was the original so far, and then I I crocheted the second one to the same point, and that is how it is turning out. So you can see there's like this one, the colors are really bunching, and then this one there is a lot less bunching, and it is a lot more dispersed. There will still be some areas, of course, where that where the colors still do bunch up, like this round here that I'm about to embark on. It's going to stack a third round of green on top of this little bit of green here, but I don't mind that too much. I kind of feel like in my head it's more important for the center portion to have a like a good distribution, because I feel like it's a little bit more obvious. And then if it happens in the outer rounds, as long as the center colors are distributed right. I don't know where I get that from, but that's how it works in my head. I'm trying not to be too much of a perfectionist about this, especially because I'm still sick and my brain is just mush, but I can't seem to help myself, and you know, it's working because I'm happy. So just in case I never actually showed you closer the full things in my vlog filming because I didn't take notes and I can't remember, that is hexagon number 4, front and back, and this is hexagon number 5, which is the same yarn I used for the socks I cast on for my birthday this year. So excited about these, and I'm really happy with how they're turning out. And I actually have a second MULTICRAFTY project to share with you, and that is this beautiful wall hanging weave thing that I have made using a yarn floret from Kaalund Yarns that I bought the very first time I went to the Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show back in 2022, I believe. Morning, friends. I am still pretty unwell, but I am going to do something a little bit different for myself. I am up to watching, in my historical vlog watching habits, I am up to December of 2017, and there is one Vlogmas video from Grace of Babel's Travelling Yarns where she is sick and takes a day off work and spends the whole day weaving. So I have decided to give that a go and spend today weaving and stop putting it off. So I have my loom here, warped up and ready to go. I just need to remove the tape holding the threads in place and then tie it to the front beam. But before I do that, I might actually try to space out the threads more because I haven't gone the full width of the rigid heddle that's on it. And I totally have the warp set too close together for some of these gorgeous thick yarns that I'll be using, which is a bundle that I got from Kaalund Yarns, a bundle of hand spun and other yarny bits, hand spun, hand dyed, I'm guessing, that I have always wanted to turn into a wall hanging, and some of them are quite thick, so I'm going to spread this out as much as I can and get to weaving. I probably am not going to film any of it because I am just not up for all of that, but I will of course show you the finished result when it is finished. I'm having to retension the whole thing because it was just a mess, especially after I spread it out. But you can see the tensioning rods at work, somewhat taut towards the back beam and the heddle, and slack on the front beam. Two days of weaving while I was sick, and it is done, and I had pretty much the perfect amount of warp to finish this off. It's possibly like a little bit long, but it was starting to get all like loose and I couldn't get the tension right on it, so it's pretty much perfect. I'm so super happy with how this has turned out. You can see that I used the bobbly yarn as a sort of like traveling, I don't know the terminology, throughout the whole thing, because I thought that would be a bit tricky to weave. But I started with a couple of rows of crochet, sort of just a crochet sort of hem locking stitch type thing, plain weave, plain weave, plain weave. It's mostly plain weave. I've got clasped weft here, which I haven't tried before and I've always wanted to have a go of. Back to some looser plain weave, normal plain weave, just a little bit of a play here of putting in a shape with some more plain weave. In this one here, I decided to try a twill, which you can't really tell, but it involved using pickup sticks. And then I finished off with this bubbly yarn, and I pretty much just placed that along the warp and used a pickup stick to just pick up warp threads in between each bobble so that the bobbles wouldn't be underneath the warp. So obviously this is the front, and then the last little bit of yarn also is plain weave, and then I tried a bit of lino and finished off with a plain weave and a couple of passes of twining. Not sure which is the top and which is the bottom at this point, but don't need to decide that yet. And I have no idea what I'm going to do with the ends either, but again, until I figure out which is the top and which is the bottom, no rush to figure that out. This was woven on my Spears loom on the warp that I had remaining from when I did the finishing techniques class at the Hand Weavers and Spinners Guild of Victoria, and I did a separate video on warping that loom, and I have been thinking about it since because I was not happy with how I did it. I mean, I did stuff up, but I think I can do better. So I have plans to do another weaving project soon, and I'm going to do a better job of warping it, and I'm going to do another video for that. So that will be coming at some point, hopefully in the near future. The last segment that I like to end on is Heartful of Craft, where I like to share something that I am grateful for since I have seen you last. I do actually write a gratitude in my bullet journal at the end of every day, but yeah, I try to think of something craft related to share with all of you in these videos. So what I am grateful for is actually something that could have gone in MULTICRAFTY, but I mentioned when I got back into vlogging this year, I mentioned that I have been stitching along with K3N Cloth Tales here on YouTube, her year-long A to Z of slow stitch project, and I haven't I was keeping up with that, and then we went on holiday and I haven't been able to catch up since. And I don't always feel like doing it, and I haven't been making myself do it when I haven't felt like it. But I am getting there, I am catching up, and the reason that I am grateful for it is because when I was sick, I pushed myself to keep knitting. I put in a lot of knitting into the optic blanket because that was relatively easy. But I realized after a while, possibly when I started thinking about how the whole clenching thing, TMJ issues, and how that was possibly also affecting my health, I realized that I should probably just actually rest, but I find it so hard to rest. I gave myself 1.5 days on the couch watching movies, and while that was like lovely and enjoyable and fun, I just want to be making things all the time. I want to craft. So I did this, and it was so great that I didn't have to do the warp, because even just like rewinding the warp that I already had on there was almost too much for my head at the time. But the weaving was so relaxing and meditative and wonderful. And then, of course, K3N's stitching I have also found to be lovely and relaxing and meditative. So I have, made a few since I last shared it with you here on the vlog, but I won't show you where I am now because I have put a lot of them away. But if you do want to see my progress on that, I have been sharing them to Instagram, so you can see them there if you're really, really curious. But really, I would just encourage you to check out K3N Cloth Tales here on YouTube. So I'm so grateful that I have these other crafts that I can fall back on or pick up when knitting isn't the right craft for the moment. Was that all that I had to say on that one? Yes, and of course, as usual, I am so, so grateful that you have chosen to spend so much time with me today. Thank you for that. I hope that you are finding this entertaining, enjoyable, educational, amusing. Basically, yeah, I hope that you're having a good time hanging out with me, and thank you so much for choosing to hang out with me. I am going to sign off there. I hope that you have all been enjoying your crafting and are finding time to be creative, to relax, and to spend with your loved ones. I will hopefully see you in another fortnight. Fare thee well.